be able to share with you my journey, what I've been working on for the past 10 years, and what I hopefully will be working on in the next 10 and more. And I've done plenty of public speaking, but this is the first time that I actually talk to like such an audience that I know who they are. So thank you again for having me. I hope that my presentation skills will be up to par. I'm not the best presenter, so hopefully this will go well. But I have prepared a little presentation for you to kind of like guide us through what we're going to be talking about. Why is my keynote not pulling up? Here you go. So I hope that everybody sees. Again, my name is Naomi Accardi. I'm based in Milan for the past almost 4 years. I was born and raised in Italy, and now 30 years ago, unfortunately, although it's been a good 30 years. I was born into a family that had no ties to fashion. Actually, my dad was an athlete, so I have no idea really where my passion for fashion came from. I guess my mom passed it down to me. She was really interested in clothing, and she had a really great style, but she didn't work in fashion or had no ties to fashion. Actually, I was raised in a really, really small, tiny little village in the north of Italy. And up until when I was 7 years old, I kind of traveled around because my dad was a really crazy athlete. He changed team every year, or every other year rather. So I was lucky to travel the world and Italy, I guess, ever since I was a little kid. When I got to high school, I decided that I was really interested in learning languages. So I specifically chose a school that would teach me multiple languages, I guess. And I started, I was playing basketball rather. So you'll see a lot of my work revolves around football or soccer, depending on where you're based in the world. And but this only has come to me in the past few years. When I was a teenager in high school, I babysat in a family in Orange County, California. I was going there every summer. I initially went there with a program for languages, and then I really loved them, and I really loved being there every summer, and so I ended up going there. And then when I graduated high school, I was like, I really want to live in the US. I was fascinated with the US and pop culture and everything that came with it, and so I convinced my parents to send me to college in Los Angeles, so I could be fully immersed into this lifestyle and learn more about, I guess I just wanted to be part of that culture, although I've changed my mind afterwards. But I enrolled or signed up for FIDM, which is a college based in downtown Los Angeles. The full name is Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. But I really had no idea what I was going to do there, basically. So I guess like growing up, I was kind of interested in arts and fashion and everything adjacent to it. But I didn't know exactly what jobs were available for me out there. So I didn't really want to be a fashion designer. I liked clothes, but I was more interested in the communication around it, how to storytell brands and how to create moments that were impactful. And so initially I wanted to, I thought that one other job that was available for me out there was styling, even though I had no idea what styling meant. And I basically, when I got to school, this dream of becoming a stylist kind of got shattered because everybody around me in my class wanted to be a stylist. And so I basically said, I don't want to be like everybody that is in this class. So I thought, because I was really good at networking and and throwing parties. I thought that I could be good at fashion PR, which was a job that opened up to me while I was in school. Although I got an internship, and I realized that really quickly that that wasn't for me. And so I kind of went back to the drawing board, and I was like, okay, so what is out there for me? What should I do? What do I like? And because I was studying visual communications and my major was really, really broad, I was like, maybe I should try and go back and work in a magazine. And so I tried, like, I found a little magazine based in the neighborhood where I was living, and I started working there. Then I graduated in 2012. Sorry, but I'm going to reduce the screen because I can't see any of you, and this is really weird. But um, yeah, but this is gonna look even more weird, so it's better if I go like this. Sorry, I told you that my presentation skills were really good, but now the only thing I can see on my screen is my presentation, so I hope that all was well. Anyways, I graduated in 2012 with Associates of Arts degree, which is basically nothing, because it's 2-year college and then you're supposed to do another 2 years, but I was not interested in going to school whatsoever. I was like, I've learned everything that I needed to learn, and now it's kind of like time to go back to Italy, I guess, to Europe. I had a great time in the US, and now I just want to focus on like finding my place in the world, in the professional world. And so I moved back, and basically I went on to change like a gazillion jobs up until now. Like my professional career, like my professional journey started in 2011, let's say, with my first internship. Now we're in 2021, so yeah, it's been 10 years. I've literally changed a job at least for the first 6 years every year. So I kind of got this from my dad, I guess, because he was changing team every year. But I basically, before finding what I truly love, to which I'm going to be talking about later, and it's what I'm focusing on right now, although I'm taking a little detour. It really took me a lot of experimentation and like trying things out and like kind of testing what jobs were out there and what I enjoyed doing, but also a lot of the times not enjoy doing. I basically have had the chance to work with some of my favorite brands and publications, and I alterned full-time jobs with freelancing, and I've worked in 4 different countries. One being Italy, obviously, one being Germany, Dubai, and the US. Going back to where I started, I guess like outside of my internships, my very first job, I guess, was with Carhartt, Work in Progress. I was working in the communications department, and that was for me was I couldn't believe that I got this job because Carhartt was my favorite brand growing up, and it happened to me very randomly. Basically, I just looked up, like I was desperate, to be honest. Like, okay, I need to go back a second because I think this is like a very important part, because after I graduated and I had my internships, I moved back to Europe. I didn't work or couldn't find work for at least 6 months, and so I started being like so anxious. I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I'm a failure. Like I'm never gonna be working in the fashion industry or like in the creative industry the way that I want. And so that was really stressful for me. And I see now, like 10 years down the line, that I talk to a lot of young people, I guess, sometimes, that are assisting on some jobs that I'm working on, and they were like, it's really distressful for me to think about having to find a job because I don't know where to start or how to do, or and I totally see how that can become something that taunting, I guess. And so yeah, so to go back of how I got my first job, I basically just cold emailed Carhartt for another position, which had nothing to do with what I wanted to do and what I was good at or what I had experience in. And they messaged me back saying, hello, we got your resume. Thank you so much. But the position that you applied for is actually not good for you. And we proposed something else, which I couldn't believe my eyes, because they proposed me a job in the communications and marketing department. And that was a key moment for me, because that's really when my career and like my network started building, and how everything started unraveling for me afterwards. After Carhartt, I moved on to OAMC, which was initially kind of like a twin of Carhartt, but then they moved to Italy and they decided to have a more high-end brand. And then from that moment on, I worked there, and then I didn't like my job anymore, actually. So I quit my job for the first time, I guess. And I had a year where I was just like, oh my God, like I'm just gonna try freelancing. So I was trying everything out. Like that's when I kind of started like working with publications again, because I always loved writing, but I didn't know how to apply that to the professional world. And then one day, after 1 year of struggling with freelancing, because obviously I didn't know anything, and I was just a mess, I got a job opportunity at Nike. And that didn't last very long because I basically, after 4 months at my job at Nike, I got recruited by Adidas in Dubai by somebody that used to work with me at Carhartt. And I was like, you know what? Why do I have to stay here at Nike in Milan? I already work here. It's time for me to go on and move to Dubai. And so that was kind of like the turning point, I guess, towards the new age of my job. And I was working as a marketing manager for Adidas in emerging markets. So I was taking care um, of multiple countries that are considered emerging, including the Middle East, obviously. And then after I left, I went back to freelancing, and I was able to develop work for our outerwear brand Barracuda, Woolrich, Our Legacy, Zegna, For Fear of God, H&M, Camper, Givenchy, Kenzo, Oakley, and many, many more. And then in the past 4 years, I have worked independently, and have become the editor of some pioneering publications like Season Zine, which we'll talk about later, Milkina.com, and I've contributed to some major international magazines like High Beast, for example. Since June, I've taken a slight detour because I was focusing more on my editorial career. But I came back to work with Sunnei, and I've taken on the role of marketing team. I say coming back because basically I've known the brand since it started, and that little freelance time that I did back in 2015, we kind of like were living together, me and the guys, and so we were really close, and that's probably why I've decided now to come and work with them. And one day, what's next for me, I guess, like my dream and what I want to be doing really is I want to publish books, and I would love to live off my sports and culture research, and also provide a space for artists and to experiment with their craft. So that was just a little bit about me, I guess more in detail, and how like I started and where I am right now. Here's a little like recap of how my professional life went. In 2011, as I was saying, I got my first internship at Carla Auto Los Angeles. This is when I thought that I was gonna be the next fashion PR. That didn't last very long. Carla Auto, for those who don't know, is like one of the biggest fashion PR agencies. And basically, their office in LA is very focused on Hollywood and events and the Oscars and like award season, all this kind of stuff. And when I saw the kind of life that the girls were living in that office, I was like, yeah, this is definitely not for me. I'm great at throwing parties, but just with my friends, I don't want to talk to any of these people. And so obviously then I went on to work in this little magazine. But then when I moved back from the US back to Italy, I found this job at Carhartt, and I was really, really happy with it. That's where I kind of like learned the fundamentals of everything that I do. And I also kind of started understanding that I was interested in more than just fashion. I was like really into culture, sports, music, and everything that comes with it, I guess. Obviously, like my experience is mostly in sportswear and streetwear. definitely, I think that my time in Los Angeles at the beginning of the 2010s kind of propelled my interest in this kind of cultures and sectors. And yeah, as I was saying, in 2015 is when I first quit my job at OMC. So as I was saying, Carhartt kind of basically, OMC is like a menswear brand nowadays, but like when it first started, it was a higher end line of Carhartt work in progress. But then the creative director was like, no, I want to do my own brand, and we were going to move to Italy. And kind of had to follow them, although they took me away from a job that I really liked, to do something that I learned definitely from, but I was not really interested in. So I was just like, you know what, I'm miserable. I don't want to come to the office. I don't like this. I'm going to quit. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was now that I think of it, I could have gone about it in a different way. But I've always been a very impulsive person, which is not good, but it's also good sometimes. And so I just quit, and I stepped into freelance life, which was a mess because I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to kind of like give quotes to my clients. I didn't know how to get clients. I didn't know how to get a steady flow of income. So that was like a really experimental time for me when I was just like trying everything out because I had to, basically, because I had to take on any job to kind of like survive. But it was like really fun and very like educational, from a professional perspective, I guess, because I started kind of, you know, dabbling in things like editorial, programming and writing more. And finally, here I had the chance to kind of explore sports, from a storytelling lens or perspective. And that's when I kind of started working with magazines like Mundial magazine. And even then, that's when I this kind of sort of just happened to me. Like my editorial career just kind of happened to me because somebody asked me to interview somebody. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I had no idea how to interview a person, but it was a great gym, because then I went on to do a lot of interviews. And then at the end of this year of crazy freelance, somebody quit their job at Nike. I was lucky enough to know the person that was hiring for that role, and they kind of just reached out to me and told me, this person left. Do you want to come and take your job? And I was working specifically in the special projects department, so that was really fun because I got to do a lot of like interesting projects, like collaborations, Nike Lab stuff, and like more bigger events that were held here in Milan. But as I was saying, 4 months into my job, I got reached out to for a better position at Adidas, which is like big heresy, because if I couldn't even tell the people of Nike that I was leaving for Adidas, it was just like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that all of you can imagine what that means. Huge betrayal. But as you can see, I'm not a person that leaves good opportunities on the table. So for me, it was just like, this feels right. I think that it's going to be good for me, and it's going to be good for my growth, and I just need it. And so I kind of just took the job and left. Now that I think about it, and now that I look back and I'm more mature and I understand about it more, I think that I could have got even more out of this job, and out of the whole transaction went. But that's just how it went. I'm a big believer in not regretting anything and just taking it as a lesson. So yeah. So I worked at Adidas for 2 years, and then after 2 years, they kind of had a restructuring, and they gave me a lot of interviews to understand what I wanted to do. And when I told them something that I didn't want to hear, they were like, okay, today is your last day at this job. And that was the first time I kind of got let go from a job. So I also didn't know how to react. But it was great because I was kind of over living in Dubai anyways, and I needed that kind of push to take a leap of faith and going from pure fashion marketing to developing my editorial portfolio a little bit more, and like working on things that were more creative campaigns, like work with brands on like creating an authentic storytelling, and like kind of like be that link between the brands and platforms and what was going on actually in the world and what was cool and stuff like that. So it's at the end it played out really well for me, even though again it wasn't, you know, as chill as I make it seem. I again had no idea what I was doing, but at least I had more corporate experience to know how to structure my work, how to structure my rates, how to talk to clients, how to kind of have that build that relationship. And this is when like I really learned that, you know, network is pretty much 70% off your whole career. You can be really good at anything, but if you don't have that good pool of contacts and kind of network that you can rely on whenever you may need, then you're kind of like screwed. And even though nowadays I'm not as social as I used to be before, I am very actually. I'm a much more of a introvert now that I used to be when I first started. I don't like going to the events anymore. I just, you know, I just want to be with who I want to be. I definitely kind of like push myself to keep in touch with some of the people that I know that it would be cool to collaborate and just be good in touch with. And this doesn't mean like to kind of like be a social climber or like to put so much pressure or like importance on like contacts. And I do not suggest to anybody to be that kind of annoying person that goes and like just, you know, hops from contact to contact because they want to have like this, they just want to know everybody. I think it's just like a matter of like building and maintaining a pool of friends, if so we want to call it, within the industry that, you know, you never know what might happen. They may need you, you may need them, like in terms of what jobs are on the market, and somebody like might have an opening or like an opportunity and be like, oh, remember I work with this person on this specific project, they could be great for this. That's also how I work. Like I would say 60% of the people that I work with on projects and campaigns and stuff like that, they kind of are people that I've worked with before, and that's how we met, or we just kind of like hit it off on a set or like on a project, and then we became collaborators on multiple things. And to go more into what like my sports and culture background, since 2018 I've been the editor at large of Season Zine, which is a pioneering fashion and a female football magazine based in London. And I've been developing a lot of projects that are focused on how sports kind of improves lives and how sport kind of influences our everyday life, and art and culture, and how all of these elements kind of collide in popular culture and in the social world. And I've had the chance to develop my own researches and also work with some publications on kind of like creating this narrative around football and culture, I guess, and football and fashion. And that's something that I've been definitely focusing on more in the past 4 years, rather than before. And just a few months ago, to get to where I am right now, my friends at Sunnei kind of reached out to me, and they were like, we're looking for a marketing director. We would love to have you on our team. What do you want to do? And I definitely had no idea of doing this initially, but then I kind of got carried away, sorry. And so I accepted it. I'm there on a consultant basis, but because I definitely want to keep on creating and publishing my own projects as I go. And that's eventually what I would love to keep on doing and live off, even though it's not as easy. But to give you a little bit of a visual representation of how my career has gone, and to give you a how can I say, to make you feel better about any decisions that you may make in the future. And if you're not sure about what you want to do, that's completely normal. I made this little scheme, which, as you can see, when I first started in 2011, I thought that like my path was going to be linear. You get a job, you grow into it, you kind of get to experience different things, and you just grow in the ladder, the corporate, or not even in the professional ladder, and you just get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm the boss. But that definitely didn't happen for me, and I think also that's what kind of like sped up my process, but also kind of hindered it sometimes, because many times, like, a lot of the things that I've been doing is like start and stop, which from the outside look like chaos, but for me it was the only way for me to kind of like really learn what I love doing, what I didn't like doing. And now I think after 10 years I really know what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, and what I want to keep doing. And obviously in every job there is a downside and an upside, and I want to make clear that not every job, like no job has only upsides, and it's all roses and love and glitter. I even if I get to do things that I really love, there is parts that are not so fun. On finding my true passion. So, as I was saying, it took me almost 6 years to figure out what I actually love doing. It started from a particular research project I did for Mondial magazine. Mondial magazine is this football culture magazine based in the UK. They initially reached out to me back in 2014 to interview like an Italian football player, which happened to play with my dad when they were kids. And from then we started developing this kind of relationship where I was creating fashion content for them initially. But then when I kind of started shifting my interest and my focus more towards social issues and like I guess culture on a more street level, I proposed to them that I would write some research project and like some dissertation about how football lives in everybody's life, and kind of like helps people through things and through life, because that was also kind of like my story. I mean, I was not interested in football, but thanks to my dad, who comes from a really horrible, well, ugly neighborhood, I would say, in Sicily, in the south of Italy, he was able to, improve his life and give me, my sister, my family a great life. And so what I did, here you can see a picture right here. It's basically I did a research on how these public pitches in the city of Palermo, which is my dad's hometown, take kids off the streets and give them like something to look forward to, and kind of fuels their passion, and gives them a purpose in life. But if I didn't try everything out, and like kind of mixed and matched, and started and quit jobs, and started and changed jobs, and started and like just kind of experimented with everything that came my way, I would have never figured out that my true passion was research, and especially the topic that I choose mostly, which is sport and culture, and how sport, culture, and fashion kind of all can find a way to meet and get entangled. And ever since I've been focusing on this, or I have had the opportunity to focus on this kind of topics and write for magazines and develop my own research and collaborate with people that have a like-minded research, I have been very happy. And I would never expect at the beginning of my path that this would be what I was going to be doing. But it turned out to be really cool, and I really hope that I can keep on doing this and make even better projects. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of my work. As part of what I do creative strategy. So I build ways for brands to communicate visually and convey purposeful content. I do creative direction, brand storytelling, copywriting. I write a lot. That's something that I've definitely been focusing on more in the past 4 years since I've left my corporate job at Adidas. Now that I've been working with Sunnei, I have had to put it on hold a little bit, but there is writing in my everyday anyways. As you can see here, I've recently collaborated with Camper on the Walking Society. It's their publications that they do seasonally. It's basically a magazine that they just released, and it's to celebrate their new collection. I worked on and did the whole copywriting for their issue about Cyprus. It was an amazing experience. I got to travel for 8 days and just experience different things about a country that I had no idea what it was like. I had no background on what Cyprus was like, so it was like a really journalistic kind of approach, and it was the first time that I was able to work on a project like this, so it was really fulfilling for me. Then this other zine that you see in the middle, it's a project that I did in collaboration with Lack of Guidance, which is a brand based in Amsterdam, which is inspired by football and football culture. And what we developed a zine and a T-shirt to kind of denounce racism in Italian football. And I got to interview like a couple of footballers and people that are involved with football in the country and not only. And we actually sold it, and all of the profits went for charity. Basically, we donated them to a local organization here in my neighborhood in Milan that kind of, it's like a female football organization that works to include girls and give them a platform where they can feel equal and they can play football if they don't have a chance to go to a real club. On the upper right side, it's a campaign that I worked on for this local Italian brand called Justo. They make footwear, and I basically did the creative production here. Here, some of my campaign work. I most recently worked on a campaign for the collaboration between Evisu and Sfera Basta, who's an Italian rapper, I guess. I did the creative direction, created the team and everything. I got to work with Oakley and Samuel Ross on a couple of their campaigns while their collaboration was running. Barakuta, as I was saying, was like a client of mine for like a couple of seasons, and I basically developed their content for campaigns and the launch of their brand. Then what else? So here on the right side, I guess, there is my football content that I do. The kid with the green jersey is from a project that I did for Slam Jam and Circle, which is a platform based in Milan, I guess, but they create content and like they publish content about social issues, sports, sustainability, climate change, all this kind of stuff. And they commissioned us a project about how during the pandemic people kind of reclaimed public space and made it their playground. On the bottom right side, you can see an editorial that I directed for Mondial magazine for the World Cup. And then season, of course, I'm the editor of this magazine. The girl in the sparkling bodysuit is a piece that I did for a magazine called Day Off. It was about synchronized swimming. And then the other stuff is more like brand work. The picture that you see with the two guys on the green ladders, this was a presentation for Grifoni, an Italian brand. I did the creative direction here. And then on the bottom left side, it's the presentation of Zegna for Fear of God, which were presented in Paris right before the pandemic started. Here I worked on the creative concept and worked with Jelly Lorenzo on kind of figuring out what this collection was going to be presented like. And that book that you see in the upper left side is like a brand book that I developed. And then in my last slide, I promise, more of my editorial work. On the bottom side, you can see where it all started. Season Stars was a pamphlet that we did as an insert to the last issue of Season that we did. And then C41 magazine is like a local magazine in Milan, but it's international, but it's from Milan. And I did a research project on this team in my neighborhood, that this Indian lady started, and plays with women, I guess, older women, to give the older women the opportunity to be active, play football, and just feel included into an activity. And I think this is all. So if you have any questions, I don't know if I've run through my time, or actually I have another project that I really want to show. I forgot about this, but it's something that I developed for Adidas when I was working there. It's called Beyond 72. It was a creative community hub that we opened in the design district of Dubai. It was basically a space where the creative community, young creatives, anybody could come and experience the brand, but also they would have educational programs going on. It was totally free. You would come and kind of like, we had launch events, we had workshops totally for free. We gave young creatives the opportunity to show their work. We produced their exhibitions, and we had talks. We linked, I guess, the younger generation with more professional people and people that had, experience in the field. And we ran it for 6 months. It was really, really great. This is like my proudest moment, I guess, in my career, especially because I was able to develop a really distinctive narrative for the region. In the emerging markets in Dubai specifically, they never had a hub where people could come and actually like connect with the brand and learn from industry professionals. We had music production workshops. We had blogging. We had coding workshops, all for free, of course, on our SVP. But we really gave people the opportunity to kind of like have a space where they could learn, be inspired, and get in touch with the brand. And it was really cool because we also gave a local designer, we had a risograph workshop, which is really cool. We gave a local designer the opportunity to exhibit her collection there. Like, we produced her whole fashion show, and we gave young photographers the opportunity to kind of like develop work for us and show it. And then, this is just like the whole book that we made. So it's kind of big. But this is all that I have to present and say. Let me stop presenting here. Okay. I don't know what else. I hope that I was clear enough and I wasn't talking too fast or too whatever. I hope that the presentation that I made was interesting. And if now you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them. And thank you.
Okay, so the floor is open for any questions, and I'll allow those in our live meet to go first before I share with you some of the questions that were submitted online. Okay, so Ethan Fan has a question, and you can go ahead.
Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, as far as advice in finding like that first entry-level job in the creative industry or internship. I know you explained that you kind of cold email Carhartt, but what advice would you give as far as that?
Yeah, so for me, yes, Carhartt was like my very first job, I guess, like that I would call real. But my internships prior to that, I kind of had the same technique. I kind of like emailed everybody that I was interested in working with, and just wait for a reply. And if they didn't reply within a time frame, I would follow up with them. So my advice that I've been given literally everybody is make a list of the companies, people that you would love to work with, and reach out to them, whether it's, excuse me, via email or, I've gone even lower level. I've been reaching out to people on Instagram or like social media. Now there is LinkedIn, even, that is like a good tool to understand who you should be messaging. And that's honestly my advice. Do not be afraid to reach out to people. The worst that can happen is not getting an answer or getting a no for an answer, which is not bad. It means that maybe at that time they don't have a position open, but you never know. At least you've made a contact. And do not be afraid to kind of follow up with people as well. And yeah, like kind of just do your research about these companies, or like who the people that you're reaching out to. And when you're emailing them or getting out to them, make sure that you know something about them. Just don't like make the same standard email to everybody. Kind of like make it personalized to who you're reaching out to, because that is shows that you are passionate about what you're kind of writing, and you're really interested in the company, and it's not just like, oh, I'm kind of like emailing everybody because I need a job. And personally, like when people reach out to me, I really appreciate when they tell me, I don't know, I saw this picture that you worked on, and I think that you would like my work. Take a look at my work. And usually, I mean, this is me, but I answer everybody. And in my personal experience, I would say 60% of the people, when you reach out to them for entry level positions, they are very kind and they reply to you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, so I will go ahead with some of the questions that were submitted online. And I also should note that there seemed to have been an issue with our Eventbrite link. And so a few of the others weren't able to hop on the meet. But I'll share some of the questions that they had for you, and I'm sure they'll review the recording. So the first question is, what does a typical day in your life look like?
So it's changed a lot recently because I've taken on a more full-time job with Sunnei, I guess. But technically, like, I start my day very early in the morning. Everybody thinks that I'm crazy, but I like to wake up really early. That's when my brain kind of works the best. And I work out when I feel like it. And I have my breakfast, or like on some other days, which are more likely to happen, I wake up, I make my coffee, and I read a book. I read books that are really different from what I do, so that's like to kind of like refresh my mind. And then nowadays I am going to the office. I get there before everybody because I really like that time to myself to read my emails, to kind of like see what I have to do through the day. And now I'm managing a team of 10 people, so I have a lot of to-do lists to make. So my first few hours of the day are kind of like looking at what I need to get through to do through the day. And then around 10 to 11, 10, 10:30, 11 a.m., I started having meetings with my team and with the product team to kind of figure out how to launch new products. If we have really important meetings, I will spend the time like rehearsing my presentations and creating documents that I can, share with everybody. And And then, yeah, I mean, I try nowadays, because I'm working more full time, I try to leave the office at 6 p.m. because after 6 p.m., then I get through the emails that I got on my other commitments. But I try to stop and you do different activities around, I guess, 8 p.m. But during the day, now that I'm doing this more traditional job, I guess it's really a lot of meetings upon meetings upon meetings to kind of like discuss what is the goals, especially for next year now, because we're reaching the end of the year. And when I was fully freelance, I guess my day kind of started the same way, but then through the day I was spending a lot of hours on reviewing research material that I had researched before, and kind of writing. A lot of my work before was based on writing and creating mood boards and putting teams together. So, yeah, I try to at least once a week to take a day to visit a museum or go watch a movie or do something that is recreational, but also can help me stay inspired.
Thank you. So, actually, the follow-up question was to that last piece, and you kind of touched on this in your final part of your response. Was it says here, I anticipate that you are quite busy daily. So, how do you maintain your self-care as a professional?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually, because before I had way more free time. In the past 6 months, I haven't had as much free time. But what I'm very strict with my work timing. I work from 9 to 6, let's say, if I'm in the office, and I take my 1 hour lunch time and I go away from everybody. I take my stuff, I go have my lunch outside, and I take that time also to read some articles and to kind of see what's going on in the world. And at night, my favorite thing to do is to watch really stupid movies, so I don't have to think about what's going on in the movie, really. And that's kind of like how I regenerate my brain for the day. And then again, like my self-care, my professional self-care is to make sure that I have one day a week that is not the weekend, where I go and watch a movie or go to a museum or see a gallery or just take a walk in the city, now that I haven't been able to travel as much. Before it was traveling, I guess. But now that I've been able to travel, I try to kind of like discover new bits of the city I live in. Even though Milan is not as big, but there's always something new to see and do. So that's what I do.
Wonderful. Ethan, I see that your hand remains raised. I was wondering if you had anything.
Oh, my bad. I forgot to put it down.
No problem. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question that was submitted, and that one asks, how do you balance both your professional and personal creative efforts?
So, how do I balance them? First of all, I live on my own and I have no boyfriend, so I don't have to. My personal life is non-existent. No, I'm joking. But I basically, I how do I balance it? So, again, I am very strict with my schedule. I every weekend I look at what my week is looking like, and I message not my assistant. I don't run an assistant, but a girl that assists in my department, let's say at Sunnei, and I tell her when I am not going to be in the office, so that we can prepare and schedule our workflow accordingly, basically. And I basically the secret for me is to be very, 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 very strict about how I use my time. And I'm a person that tends to procrastinate, or rather get carried away, because I am the typical creative person that sees something that they want to do, and then if somebody comes and say, hey, there is something better to do, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come and do it. So I've learned to become very manage my time very good. And so I basically set a schedule for my day, for my week, and I try to stick to it. Of course, like it's not always possible, but I try to do it as much as I can. So I can, I don't lose sight of what my personal goals or like my personal projects are. And I still get to, be successful in my day job, is so we want to call it.
Fantastic. And just to be sensitive of time, I'll skip ahead to one of the questions here. And that one asks, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned as a creative?
Oh, what's the biggest lesson? So the biggest lesson is, do not be afraid to actually do the things that you think, because a lot of the times, and also talking to my peers, it's very easy to, dream very big, but then be afraid to take the step to do the things. There is no failures, it's only lessons. So it's easy to get, also disheartened by seeing other people doing more than you, but you never know what those people actually, what their process was like. And there is not one person that is the same. So it's very important to stay focused, and whenever you have an idea and you really believe in it, don't let that idea just go to waste, because you want to make it perfect. Nothing starts as perfect. Even the most successful companies and projects started from very small steps, and that's how things get done, and they get to see the light and flourish. So the biggest lesson is definitely, don't be afraid of your own ideas, and do not get distracted by being a perfectionist, basically.
Wonderful. So that brings us to the end of our question period, and I'll throw it back to those of you who are joined with me today to see if you had any final questions that you'd like to ask before we close out this afternoon. Okay, and I'll check the chat just to make sure. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we have any more questions, but I just wanted to say in closing to Naomi, thank you so much for joining us. I know we all learned lots. I corresponded with a few of us who were in here, and they've been really inspired so far. And it's great to have you. And it was wonderful, really, really wonderful learning more about you and your work, and how you've been able to get to where you are now. And I'm sure, as I said before, that we've really all enjoyed your message this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was wonderful.